Hello everyone and welcome back. The moment is finally here. Match day tomorrow at St James's Park as Newcastle United takes on Southampton in our opening game, a newly promoted side. In my personal opinion, with all due respect to any Southampton fans watching, we should be battering the crap out of them. We should destroy that Southampton team tomorrow. No doubt about it. Newcastle are excited going into this campaign. I thought we looked good at the Cellar Cup last week, and I feel like that's going to be a driving factor that's going to get Newcastle going from minute one. And I personally think we'll destroy them. Hopefully, I'm correct in saying that, because there's anything but we'll have a different response after the game. But I like to mention the fact that in this video, we will talk through everything about that Southampton game. We're going to look at what Eddie Howe said in his first press conference in the Premier League, and then afterwards we're going to talk about Marc Guehi, because despite a third bid being rejected, we went back in with a fourth. It's now been confirmed by sources online that Newcastle's actually put a fourth bid in for this guy. I'm blown away by that. I was not expecting Newcastle to do that. I thought we'd be well and truly out, especially after the way Crystal Palace have handled the situation. But Newcastle must be desperate, and they must be thinking, well, we've looked at all our options. We're just going to stick with it now. We're going to see it through, and we're going to get this deal sorted. So, yeah, plenty to get into. If you guys enjoy the content, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button as well. Vlog from the match tomorrow, so you don't want to miss that. And then we're going to have some bonus content this season if Newcastle do in fact win the game. That is a bit of a disclaimer. But if Newcastle win, then you'll be seeing double uploads. We'll tell you a bit more about that. But let's get through Eddie Howe's press conference. So what has the man in the middle said about Newcastle United's season? In terms of our players, so he said that Fabian Schär looks well enough after his little knock last week. Doesn't seem to be too much of an issue, so my impression is he probably is going to play in some capacity tomorrow. If not, they'll start Burn and Kelly, I would have thought. Joe Willock is not 100% match fit, but he has played a couple of the pre-season games, and he'd probably be sitting on the bench, I would have thought. Or at least he'd be in amongst the team, but I don't think we're starting for obvious reasons. And Callum Wilson is not fit at all, as expected. I mean, I don't think anyone's surprised at this point, but Wilson still is out for a few games. Thankfully, Newcastle has signed a striker, so tomorrow is second start, and it'll be Osula as the number 2 sitting on the bench, which for me, after watching the kid last week, I thought it was good, so I don't have any issues with that. And that's probably the key sign that I thought Newcastle have got nailed down this season, just to make sure there is a third striker. So in this situation when Wilson is knackered, we have someone there that is available to give Isak a bit of rest time. So I'm happy with that. I felt he'd get his first proper start against Forest in the Cup, would have thought. But for tomorrow, I think I'll get a little bit of time off the bench depending on the context of the match. But keep an eye on him, because I was impressed with him last week, and I'm hoping he kicks on for us tomorrow. In terms of our players, we mentioned Eddie Howe and transfers, and especially Miggy Almiron, because Eddie Howe has came out and just said how important he thinks Almiron is for the team. The impression is now, after the fact that Charlotte FC have walked away from negotiations, it sounds like Newcastle are going to stick with Miggy. I know for a lot of the Newcastle fans, including myself, I'm going to be brutally honest, I think we should have sought him. He was a player for me that he's just not good enough for where Newcastle are trying to get to, and that's not me bashing the player, because I think he has worked his absolute backside off for Newcastle. But in terms of technical ability, in terms of where Newcastle are going to get to, I just don't think statistically he's good enough on paper. He just didn't get the goals for Newcastle. But in terms of what Eddie Howe said about transfers, yes, we're still active. He was saying that he didn't want the doubt of when he signed the player. You look at the sign in 3 months' time and go, well, we didn't need to sign this guy. So Eddie Howe's mind says that any player we bring in now will actively improve the starting 11, which based on the window we'll have, I would say it's anything but, because we're signing 2 goalkeepers that aren't going to start for Newcastle. Lewis Hall, who was all agreed and done last season, and then Osula, which to be fair, it is a good sign. I think for the future could potentially start for Newcastle. But in terms of these starting players, we haven't signed any idea. That's the truth behind it. So I think with Marc Guehi, obviously that is a completely different story, which we'll mention in a minute. But it's been a bit of a lacklustre window, despite what the manager and the owners may think about it. So for me, crucial couple of weeks. If we get Marc Guehi in, despite all the drama behind it, and despite the fact that Newcastle have almost caved into Crystal Palace's demands, I still think it's not not a bad sign. I think it's class in terms of ability, but price-wise, I think we'll knock the signing back a little bit. You got to remember, if Newcastle, with this fourth bid, which we'll mention in just a moment, if Newcastle do get him for Crystal Palace's £65 million demands, that is more than what we paid for Isak, which I think is mental when you put it that way. For a player who's had an unbelievable time at England and a good half season or so for Crystal Palace, and that's kind of already based them off. So as much as I think he's class, and as much as I think he would improve Newcastle's squad, he is most definitely not a generational talent, and he is most definitely not one of the best centre-halves we've ever seen in the league. So for Newcastle, it's a tightrope to stand on. But as I mentioned in Yin's show, it has now been confirmed by journalists that Newcastle will put a fourth bid in. They've actually went and put a fourth bid in. So despite Crystal Palace's tactics are coming out to the media with the owner, and the next day Marc Guehi himself coming out in Sky Sports, Newcastle are still going in for him. And that's positive news, I would say, despite how much of a nightmare this transfer has been to talk about. And I think the main problem with this transfer is just how public it's been. I don't think it's abnormal for a team to put 4 bids in for a player. I think there's probably a lot of transfers and a lot of circumstances where that's happened. The problem with this particular transfer, and the problem why it makes us look bad, is because it has taken so long, which I think is a bit of fault towards Newcastle, because if we put a bid in like this straight away, then we probably could have got him in much sooner, and he could have potentially be playing the game tomorrow. But secondly, it's just how public Crystal Palace has been about. I mean, you can't blame Newcastle for how the owner and the player himself has been just drawn into the media, and how Crystal Palace have got this transfer so public. That's something that is beyond Newcastle's factor, so I can't exactly blame it for that. But it has been a nightmare of a transfer. It just has been a nightmare. It's still a top quality deal, and it actually would be the most expensive transfer that any Premier League team has made this summer, which again, whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing is another question, but Newcastle would be making essentially, in essence, the best signing of the window in the Premier League if you do get Guehi in, which I think now, despite what I'm saying, I said yesterday it was a big 48 hours, then our bid got rejected. I'm thinking, well, you know what, that's well and truly done. And then this morning, 4th bid. So if the 4th bid's accurate, which I would assume that it is, judging by media reports, then Newcastle are going to get him now. I would have thought so, because of the fact that we're not going to keep throwing stuff in like this. We're not going to throw all our eggs in the basket and then just go in for the player, put 4 bids in for him, and then walk away. Especially if this bid's really going to be around the £62 million mark, which is like £2-3 million what Palace actually want. There's no way Newcastle are gonna walk away over £3 million or so on this. So as much as I don't want to say, my personal opinion is that I think Newcastle probably will get him for £65 million now. It looks that way. It looks like Newcastle has just been a bit desperate almost, where they just caved into Palace's demands and they just went, you know what, fair enough, Palace, we're just going to give you all this money. So it just depends what you guys think about that. Do you think that was the right call? For me, no, I wouldn't have said so. However, you're getting a quality player for that money. At least you know with that money you're getting a good player in. So for Newcastle's case, it's not been helpful in this window. Do I think Newcastle's window will be done after the signing? I like to hope not, because we still haven't signed the right winger, which is the one I've been banging on about all window. We haven't even done that one. That was the key one for Newcastle. So if we do get a right winger in and then we sign Guehi, then my feelings after the window will probably be different, despite the fact that this Guehi signing has dragged on for so long. But Newcastle still could be off for quite a good window, and I feel like this season without European football, for me, I've said it a couple of times already, I want to see us go back to Wembley. I was there, of course, for the Carabao Cup final. Just the build-up and everything for that game was just magic. It was so good. And I feel like as fans, especially now, it's 69 years since we won a domestic trophy now. That means anyone that is 68 and under has never ever seen Newcastle United win a piece of silverware. I think that's mental. I mean, people can quite literally live their entire lifetime and not see Newcastle win anything. That's just not on. That's not on. We need to make sure that these dedicated supporters that have been through us through the thick and thin for 60 plus years actually see Newcastle do it. And that's what I want to see us try and get towards this season, because I think without European football, makes us one of the favourites to do something like that, especially in something like the Carabao Cup. So that's my hope and aspirations this season. But in terms of the league, it has to be Europe, and I feel like it has to be top 5. Anything less than top 5 now, we'll have to look into it, but I don't think it'll be great from us. Appreciate you guys watching anyway, though. Enjoy the Southampton game tomorrow. Enjoy the season ahead. And we'll see you all tomorrow after the match. Hopefully in a positive mood.